There are some great automotive destinations in the world. Volkswagen has Autostadt in its hometown of Wolfsburg, a theme park devoted to everything VW, and you can even take delivery of a car while you're at it. Audi, BMW, Porsche, and Mercedes-Benz have stunning museums awash in the history of their respective brands. Ford is affiliated with one of the most important historical museums in the world, and there's even a modest museum dedicated to the product history of Chrysler in Auburn Hills. Are some of these museums over the top? Absolutely. But these manufacturers rightly see these kinds of structures as part of their continued brand building, and they're absolutely right to think that way. But GM, the number one or number two automaker in the world, depending on what day it is, has an 81,000 square foot warehouse in Sterling Heights, Michigan, called the GM Heritage Center, where it keeps a smattering of its most important cars, and it's not even open to the public on a regular basis. Now granted, the very last thing on CEO Dan Akerson's to-do list is funding a museum for General Motors, so the likelihood of GM spending $100 million on a museum is, well, it's just never going to happen. Because the reality for Akerson and his troops is that they're operating in a 24/7, all-hands-on-deck frenzy, developing competitive products, putting out fires, trying to move the sales needle, cutting costs, trying to maintain momentum in China, trying to grow business in new markets, etc., all the while waiting impatiently to get out from under the tainted moniker of government motors that no one wants to hear about anymore down at the Rensen. But, and this is a very big but, despite GM's swirling maelstrom of problems and challenges, the fact that it doesn't have a proper museum is bordering on the criminal. I get that under Dan Akerson, GM is more about cost cutting than brand building, and for the very short term maybe he's right. But there's a bigger long-term issue at stake here, and if Akerson wants his legacy to be one of other than the guy who was there after GM emerged from bankruptcy, then maybe he ought to heed history or at least acknowledge its importance to the company and put plans in motion to build a proper museum to showcase GM's glorious past, ever-changing present, and promising future. And it just might have the beneficial side effect of convincing people that GM is so much more than a faceless enterprise, an iconic American company filled with colorful stories, true believers, imaginative solutions, and flat-out creativity that once dominated the business and set the standard for future generations.